It's amazing to me how the newer version of the GoPro gives me more problems than the old version. So, again, I always feel stressed using this thing. It's so annoying. So right now we're basically using no battery. It's all on cord. So if that cord goes out, it's over. It's done. We retire. Yeah. So we're recording this on Sunday.
We'll run a Yule log for the rest of it.
yeah. Or we'll just do audio. But we're doing this on Sunday because last night we were at a wedding for our cousin. I've never seen Mom so. I mean,
careful.
Mom was partying dancing hard. I've never seen Mom dance like that, but she kept scaring me. She was this close to the cake. So let's describe this, right? So we're in a giant open area, right?
Called a dance floor.
Giant dance floor, right? Yeah. Is that what they call those things?
They call dance floors.
And it's kind of a weird setup, right? You have the two tables in the front, DJ down the way, and the cake's over to the left. Mm-hmm. All the tables are on the outside, right? So there's like a bar, like a physical bar that separates it. Tables, dance floor tables.
A railing, yes.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know why I struggled with that. But our table is in the far left corner, so next to the DJ. So our dance circle is kind of, my brothers and I, we're kind of right in the center there, like right at that corner. And then right there's the cake.
I'd use the term dance loosely.
I was going in pretty deep last time.
No, yeah. Well, okay, go ahead. Finish.
But mom's flailing.
That's right. I was feeling the music.
Mom was feeling the music, and I swear to God, if this was the cake, Mom was like right here, and I was getting scared. I was like, you don't want to be that aunt.
People, I was in control the whole time.
Debatable, but I wasn't sure. Even Kenny was like, "Oh, let's make a wall." So, but yeah, it was fun. It was a nice wedding.
In control the whole time. Nothing was gonna happen to that cake.
I want to know: is that place only used for catering and stuff? Like, is that only for wedding? Like, what do they use that place for?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never been there.
The Lighthouse, for those of you.
It's a restaurant. They probably.
Oh, it is a restaurant. Okay.
Well, yeah, they do other functions there probably. Yeah. I don't know if they have conferences or whatever. Just if you realize, it was just a giant open space.
Yeah, basically.
The curtains that divided it.
Food on fleek.
It had a nice view. Some of it. Well, yeah, it was good. Better be careful.
Yeah, who knows who's watching? Yeah, I thought it was a good wedding.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, it was very well done. The food. Listen, there's a couple things in there. I was like, why would you serve this? But I was surprised they had this mushroom stick. Right, and it was crusted and stuff.
I didn't try any of those.
I was like, oh, this is pretty good. The hors d'oeuvres were pretty good. But then they had like this chicken parm that was kind of soggy. I won't lie. I was like, this kind of sucks.
I didn't try the sliders.
Yeah, it was. Imagine a soggy chicken parm on a hard bun. I was like, oh, this is awful. But no, everything else, I mean, it went smoothly. Like, I think everything.
You'd have to ask Mike and Michaela about the hors d'oeuvres because every time I saw them, they were walking around.
They were going into deep.
Something else in it. They were shuffling together around the whole room, working all the buffets. But they didn't realize there was a dinner.
Yeah, they were like, we thought this was the food. Yeah. It was a lot of, I felt like 17 people probably came up to me working there, and each thing was a different food.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe this is the only thing to eat.
Yeah. But then they call that tray. There's a term for it where they walk around with trays.
Yeah. Perfect. I liked it.
Yeah.
So yeah, all in all, I thought it was a pretty successful wedding. Got to see some old friends and family.
Yeah.
We haven't seen in a while.
That's true. Yeah.
So it was nice.
Yep.
Other than that, I guess we can get right into it.
Yeah.
You have, two of our articles actually kind of coincide with each other.
Which one?
So do you want to start with your first one, which was the ChatGPT one?
Oh, that wasn't my first, but I can start with that.
Let's start with that one.
Okay.
Because mine, we could do it like kind of back to back, sort of yours then mine. As I keep my eye on the GoPro to make sure that we're still recording.
Not as smart as we thought. ChatGPT averages a C+ on the University of Minnesota's in 4 law school exams. The humans got a B+. Okay. The bots came in 36 out of 40 in constitutional law, 18th out of 19th in employee benefits law, 66 out of 67 in tax law, and 75 out of 75 dead last in tort law. The bots were better on the essays than they were on the multiple choice, but they bombed on the multiple choice with the math.
Really? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
No in-depth analysis on the part of the bots. The graders who looked at the essays, they said that the robot answers, they had perfect grammar, but they were more repetitive in their answers, so they were able to identify pretty easily after a while which ones were done by the ChatGPT.
Ever thought that maybe the humans were wrong, Mom?
Well,
maybe the test proctor didn't know the answers.
well, as bad as it was, they did say, keep in mind that it was good enough to earn a JD degree from a decent law school on its own.
That's fair.
Yeah, even though they didn't do that well. Now, what does it mean, and should they keep using it? Their answer was, like calculators, once you introduce that, students didn't really do all the math on their own anymore. So they look at this ChatGPT as almost like you could use it for some of the basics of your essays, but then you have to go in and you have to personalize it. That's how they're starting to see.
I think we kind of knew that, though. Like, I saw a Tim Dillon post where he said, tell me about the Ukrainian-Russia war, as if Tim Dillon was saying it. And it wasn't perfect, but even he said that it's scarily accurate.
Yeah.
So, to your point, with a multiple choice, if it's not, because I don't know if they were throwing multiple choice out or just information when they were building it, it might not even know what exactly multiple choice is and how to answer it.
Well, it took the test, so they were able to prompt it somehow.
Yeah, I wonder what determines that.
Answer.
I feel like there's some tampering if it can't do that, and someone
you would think
made
it would be able to do that versus the essays, but it seemed
yeah,
to be
but
better
it
with
knew the essays very well. Like, to me, if it did the multiple choice bad and the essay bad, that would make sense. But for it to not be able to do, it could do the essays well, but the multiple choice not well. That tells me that it's just not made for multiple choice, or like I don't know how it answers that.
I'm more interested in what kind of law school questions have math in them.
That's a good point. I'm sure there's got to be some kind of
like a percentage, 35% of the people in this lawsuit, and it couldn't calculate 35% of the people in the lawsuit.
My other guess is if they're going off of, right, the test is based on the knowledge that you're given in the classroom, right?
For
that law school
exams,
right?
Yeah.
So if ChatGPT is grabbing numbers from other textbooks from other schools, like, because it's just information everywhere,
right,
and then it takes it all, compiles it essentially. It can't pick and choose exactly what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
Probably just averages them, and then if the average was too far off from the answer, that's probably where it got wrong. Yeah.
Well, I'll throw in the last part. OpenAI, the company that is behind ChatGPT, they just received a massive multi-million-dollar cash infusion from Microsoft that want them to try and improve it and make it work better. I don't know, I guess. But my take on it is this. I think another thing that bothers professors in the environment we're in right now, ChatGPT is just pulling data. It's pulling facts.
Yeah, it's pulling a massive amounts of data. Well, when you really break it down of what it is, it's just taking a massive amount of data that no one person could take in all at once and then just giving you the data.
Right. And we're finding in general, professors today do not like data and do not like facts. They don't.
Yeah, if it goes against what they believe.
Right. So I don't think they're going to appreciate ChatGPT in certain topics, because if it's literally just pulling data and facts and putting it into an essay form or answering questions based on data and facts, as we know, can't be changed. It's a truth. It is what it is. Whether you like it, don't. It's like it's dispassionate. You don't like it. You don't like it or dislike it. It's just a fact. And if they put facts down that professors don't like, right? I think they're going to have a problem, because what they call a fact is different than what you and I call a fact.
Especially when you get to the generalized ones. So, like, for instance, my senior year of college, I took an English course with this guy it was his way or the highway.
Yeah.
And it was all like Shakespeare poems and your interpretation of them. But if your interpretation, which is your opinion, wasn't his opinion, it was wrong. So that's where ChatGPT probably can't compute. Like, at that point, it's not going to know what answer the professor is looking for. So if you have an opinion question, which, again, I don't know if those are multiple choice, is usually not opinion. So if you're taking in a lot of information and then you say which one of these four answers is right, I don't know if it's programmed to go, this answer is right. Because I'm sure that the way multiple choice works is that they're all answers to throw you off. Sometimes. Usually, the general rule of multiple choice when you're making multiple choices, you have the right answer, you have two that are kind of close, and then one that's really wrong.
Right.
I
don't even mean it that way. I'm saying pick something that's a data point that we know professors don't agree with. So let's say, for instance, a data point of, I'm spitballing here. I'm making something up. Okay, slavery began in the United States in 1619.
Right.
Okay, now is that a fact or not? Some professors say, well, it's not really a fact. Others are saying it is a fact. So if it is a data point that it started in 1619, the ones who disagree with that, they're going to say the ChatGPT is wrong. They're not going to like that because ChatGPT is going to say it's absolutely right. It's a fact. It's a data point. You may not like it, but it is what it is. Well, a lot of professors today, they don't accept certain things as fact, even though, as we know, 2 + 2 = 4. No, it doesn't.
Right.
So, they're not going to appreciate something that just strictly churns out an essay, for instance, with factual statements. Because if they don't agree with the premise, to your point, that's where it comes in, well, that's an opinion now. It's not an opinion, it's a factual paper.
Right. Yeah. No,
so I think they might have a problem with ChatGPT when they see just how factual it is.
Right. Or they say, to your point, it's the argument of that's not my answer, so ChatGPT must be wrong.
Right.
So but think about, and this is the scary thing because I know that there are professors like this, the ones that'll say, oh wow, all this information out there, it's literally a robot that has all the information in the world and it can't get my opinion right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like that level of narcissism that I know some of these professors, I've had professors that have, I'm not even kidding you, have thought that way.
Yes.
So that scares me to that extent. But it also scares me that kids are going to be able to essentially not have to think on their own anymore.
Yeah.
And again,
look at it
that's
this way.
kind of a
We
byproduct.
know, let's say, for instance, there's factual scientific information out there, data, whatever, that's been proven. If it doesn't advance a narrative that a professor in, say, the science field refuses to accept, if it doesn't, and ChatGPT writes an entire paper about how this scientific data proves that such and such happens, but the professor's in denial about that data, right? Mm-hmm. He's not going to accept that as being a good source, even though it's factual.
Yeah. The other question, though, is about ChatGPT is for the future, and I'm sure what's already on the internet is, I wonder how good it is at deciding, or what decides what's the right information, what's the wrong information.
Well, yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
It's only as good as data in, data out, right?
So if, let's say, 100 things were thrown in for the topic of 2 + 2, and 40 of them were wrong and 60 of them were right, I wonder what determines, and we'll never know this answer, but I wonder what determines which is the right one. I wonder if it's able to see the 40 wrong ones and go, this is how they got it, but this is the right answer.
Well, here's a perfect example. So the climate change issue, right? Mm-hmm. 99% of these scientists are basing their data on, I believe, 1 or 2 studies, right? Mm-hmm. And that's fine. The 1 or 2 studies is, let's assume it was factual information, data that was put out on the different climates over the years, and etc. Fast forward, some of those original scientists said, wait a minute, our data was wrong. Right. That means 99% of the other scientists out there that used that data was wrong. Right. They don't want to admit that. So they'll say, no, we have climate issues.
You have
based
to
on that
understand
data.
why they don't want to admit that. It's not, and this is where the dilemma comes in. I'm sure if the money wasn't involved, a lot of those scientists would change their mind and go, okay, we can reset. Right. But when you have grants that are based on this, when you, like, a lot of the reason why we have scientists that are so divided in the sense of, let's take COVID, for instance.
No, we can't go there.
Yeah. I mean, the fact is, right, we had scientists, doctors that were saying COVID, this is what's going on with COVID and it's bad. Then we have another one saying that it wasn't anything to worry about. Right. When you have that much of a split, either way, there's money behind it. Yeah. So you're just protecting your side of the argument. Right. Problem is, people's lives are at stake.
That's right.
in that regard. So that's as far as we're going into the COVID stuff. But like, that's what I mean. That's just probably the best example of, there's an incentive to use the skewed data because it gives the ultimatum of the worst case scenario,
Right.
which means people are going to give you grants to fix it,
Right.
money to fix it.
Hence
So,
my point that a lot of professors who get these grants and do that research, they don't necessarily want a factual robot churning it out, because when the robot looks at the data, or bot, however you want to, they may say this isn't accurate. This data doesn't make sense. It doesn't jive with whatever information those other scientists later said, oops, we made an error. I'd like to think that the ChatGPT would have identified that error earlier based on other data that was loaded into it, right? And that would have spewed out, nope, wait a minute, something's not right here. We have a conflict. How that happens, I don't know. Maybe it writes a paper and it writes two conflicting opinions. Professors don't want that, because they're dying, the expression is dying on the sword over this climate change thing. And it's so many of them. And they've completely delusional that they will not even look at another opinion about it.
right.
To the point where, if you don't agree after looking at the opinion, that's fine. You can't argue that. With a human, you can argue it, right?
With a robot, it's a lot harder.
With a computer, now they've got to justify, whereas they don't have to justify it to everybody else because they have the numbers.
Yeah, and I know what a lot of people are thinking right now. It's like, well, it's going to get better, but the issue is it's going to get better at writing stuff so that it seems like it's not a robot. It's not going to get better at deciding what data is good or bad. It can, but again, a human has to determine that.
Yeah, it's not. It can't.
The
I
robot
don't think
itself
it
can do that.
The only way it could decide if data is good or bad is if the data is based on other data that was previously entered.
Exactly.
And at best, it's going to spew out and say there's a conflict.
Right. And then you have the next real problem, which is, let's say you're 50-50 in the sense of this topic has 50% wrong, 50% right. If I wanted to change something, right?
Yeah.
What stops me from making another bot that says, let's put out the wrong answer 1 billion times?
Right. Fix your shit.
Does that affect the overall answer?
Yeah.
Like, is that going to change the way that it's determining answers?
Yeah.
My other question to it, and I'd be curious to ask one of these ChatGPT guys at OpenAI, every time you put, like, if say you and I put in the same question to yours versus mine, it's a different answer. It's the same. It's a different writing style. So no two essay. Like, let's say we were college kids trying to write an essay, and we were like, oh, let's just like ChatGPT do it. It's not going to give the same answer as you and I. But I don't know if it can determine if it can't determine right or wrong. What if my answer is wrong and yours is right? Right. So same spot it came from, but what determines if yours is the right answer versus mine?
I think it's going to have to know. It doesn't just base it on one fact. I think it's got to, if it's truly a data-driven program, whatever, it can't just base it on one piece of data. So the other side,
it's got to be a lot.
The more data you put into this thing, the more conflicts it's going to have, because the data is either going to change or the data will be inaccurate. And as soon as some data doesn't make sense from a factual basis, there has to be some sort of error or trigger from ChatGPT to say, wait a minute, I have a conflict here, right?
Right.
Either Babe Ruth hit 100 home runs or he only hit 50. I got two sources of data telling me that. And I keep going back and looking at every story and every year and trying to calculate it, but I have a conflict.
Right.
And that's up to the human to decide, where was the breakdown?
Right. I think the other thing we have to remember is that ChatGPT is not made for answering questions like that. It's made for helping. It's supposed to be a tool. So, right, the whole reason we have it was mainly for softwares. So if someone was writing code and the code wasn't working, you'd throw it into ChatGPT and it can help you solve the answer.
Well, and that's the
it
point
wasn't
about,
made to throw in, say, hey,
Right.
I need a code for this iPhone app to work. It wasn't made to do that. It can do that, and that's the byproduct, but it was supposed to be a tool to help.
Well, that was their point about calculators. So once people introduced calculators, a lot of parents, and I remember, they were mad, especially like on the SAT. Like, why are you bringing in calculators? Because make them do the work themselves. Well, now that they made the exam a little bit more advanced, where you could bring in certain calculators to do the basic functioning, but you still had to know how to create the formula and all that stuff. So, and now calculators are an acceptable part of the SAT, unless you're some freaky little genius kid going in without a calculator. But you're almost at a disadvantage now
if you don't
go
have
in
one,
with the calculator. And then it became, as you know from your time with the SAT, a certain type of calculator that did more of the transactions and saved you even more time.
The Texas Instrument.
Right.
I remember that bad boy.
Right.
I was like this on it.
Yeah, right. So when you bring those into the equation, you either have to make the test harder or it's going to be easier for everybody.
Right.
And now it becomes required. Right?
Yeah.
You have to have it.
I think we're going to get to the point where there's going to be a version of ChatGPT for schools.
Yeah.
So the beauty is you can divide it out.
Yeah.
But again, it's not made for it wasn't made to help kids through school. It was made for high-level scientists who are struggling because there's so much information out there and can't get it all condensed into one. There's not enough time in a lifetime.
Right.
So have a robot do the compression for you so that you could just read it and see what the answer is if you're solving the cure to cancer.
Right.
Not so a kid can get out of a D in economics or something like that.
Right.
Some BS.
It's like, do you give kids calculators in kindergarten? No.
Right.
How are they going to learn to do basic math? Well, they don't need to do it. That's why you have spell check.
That's the
Everybody
problem.
says
Yeah,
spell
right,
check.
right,
Why do we
right.
need spell check? Well, what do nobody has to learn how to spell because spell check. Then they find out that you get certain brain development out of spelling. Like literally,
Cursive. Cursive's
writing,
another
same
one.
thing.
Cursive, like that. How do you sign stuff? Oh, well, you won't have to because you could just do it digitally now. It's like,
Which is true. You really don't sign much, but then again,
I
it
only
better?
write in scripts. We've talked about this. I only write in script. I never do print. Print is hard to me. When I had to write that check yesterday for freaking $5 billion.
Well, again, there's a brain hand development that's associated with writing and script. I'm sure there's something with print also when kids first learn print and they take it to script. But I don't know. It's just a skill that if you keep taking these skills away for technology, what are you really developing in the human other than a greater dependence on the technology?
Right. Yeah. No question about
Which takes me to my next article. iPhone and Android users reveal how long they could go without their phones.
Cool. I was going to do mine because we go back to back because mine was selling ChatGPT.
Okay,
you
go
know
with your ChatGPT.
See how my mom tried to transition and failed?
Well, yeah.
So kind of to your point, but a little bit back is the fact that Google is now launching its own chatbot.
Okay.
Here's my problem with that, right? And you tell me what your thoughts are on this.
Well, if Microsoft just invests in OpenAI,
They invested into OpenAI, right? OpenAI, they don't have like a search engine or anything. They just use what's out there, right?
Why would they invest in Google also? Why wouldn't they just do one or the other? Why do OpenAI at all if it's Microsoft? Isn't Google and Microsoft the same?
No.
Okay,
That's why I was
that's
confused.
right.
No,
That's
no.
right. That's right.
Microsoft's its own company.
That's right.
The difference here is Microsoft just wants to give money to improve the technology.
Yeah, I get
What
it.
scares me about Google making an open chat AI or whatever is where are they going to get their information from? They can't get it from Bing. They can't get it from DuckDuckGo. It has to be from Google. Now, as we know with Google, again, they're technically our boss, so we got to be careful here.
Yeah.
But I don't like if you're, let's just say you wouldn't, what's the word I'm looking for here?
There's a way you could present data in such a way that you can
Manipulate people's ideas.
right, or
Yeah.
It's just
If you make a chatbot using only your own data and not data from other places, it's going to be very skewed data.
yes,
So I'm very curious to see how Google is going to rival ChatGPT, which is a company, ChatGPT. They're only, as far as I know, let's put it that way. As far as I know, they just want to make a chatbot to better the world. They don't have another incentive of making money from actual information itself. They just want to make money off their chatbot. It gets information from everywhere. Google, on the other hand, they don't need a chatbot. They could just use the one why aren't they doing what Microsoft did and help put money into it? Why do they want to make their own?
yeah.
That to me is a little scary.
You can control the data,
Yeah.
So you could
That's a
see how it's
scary thought to me.
presented, and Google can turn around and say, well, wait a minute, your data about climate change is wrong because our data
said
says
something else. Why? Right. I think our chatbot's a little better. And
right.
people start going to that one, and then all of a sudden you have skewed data. Yeah. That's the fear. I'm not saying that. I'm just speculating. But the other thing I would say is Google has a lot more money than OpenAI. They got a lot more to put funds to. Given, I don't know how much of a they have to budget, obviously. I don't know how much they're going to put into an open chat.
Google just let a lot of people go.
Every company
They just
did
cut
that.
their staff. Well, I know, but that's not usually.
Yeah.
That is one way of keeping your money and saving a lot of money by letting people go.
Someone
but-
brought up a really good point. Remember last year when they gave Elon so much shit for cutting 8,000 jobs? He's a madman. You saw Google. I think Google and Facebook both let like 12,000, 15,000
Yeah.
employees go.
Amazon let
and
a
no
bunch of
one
people
said
go.
anything.
Yeah.
Right? Just kind of goes to show you how what. And again, I saw that on Google. So why is
How
Google? Yeah.
biased? Everyone's seeing.
So
it
imagine if
firsthand.
that biases was seen in a open chat
Yeah.
in their open chat GPT.
Yeah,
whatever
I
Google's
agree.
is gonna be called.
It's very suspicious when you have all these groups
Yeah.
now creating their own form of data.
Yeah.
Who's accurate?
Yeah. Oh, and now you're making a chatbot based off less of a data pool.
Right.
And it's your data pool.
Right.
Yeah. So that's scary to me.
Yep.
That's yours. What was yours about the iPhone and the
Well, it was just adults that they looked at 2,000 Brits and they asked them about their iPhone, Android, and the stats are interesting. 71% said they would struggle without the internet. They can go a maximum of 5 hours without the phone and TV if they really, really had to. They can go 3 days without their laptop before it starts impacting their life. 56% would hardly communicate at all if they didn't have their phone. 57% said digital connection is vital for their well-being. 56% said it's important for their social life, and 49% said they need the internet for their job, which is low, I thought, 49%.
Yeah.
Average day phone user used 3 hours and 34 minutes.
Well, again, these might be 100 people that they asked. How many
No,
did they?
2,000 Brits.
2,000.
British
oh,
people.
British people. Well, their life sucks to begin with, so.
Laptops were active under 4 hours. So, you know.
They can't go 5 minutes without tea, Mom, let alone.
Yeah, really.
Kidding.
So what does the study highlights? It really was more about how much adults rely on technology.
What was
to
the
get
age
through their
age
day.
range?
They said adults. That wasn't kids.
So probably
adults.
18 to, let's say 16 to probably 35 is usually maybe 40.
But it's interesting that some said they wouldn't communicate at all without their phone. 56% said without a phone or laptop, we wouldn't communicate
I was saying
at
that
all.
to someone the other day at the gym. Like how many like on my generation, some kids can't even have a conversation with someone older than them. Like I can't imagine. I mean, without their cell phone, yeah, they'd isolate themselves. But besides that one, my only problem with the idea of or as to why you would need it is when you think of all the companies that have kind of gone digital. Mm-hmm. I can kind of agree with them. Like, what would you do if?
No, I totally agree that you are reliant on internet now because like people go shopping, they need access to their phone to pay.
Yeah.
Because they use Apple Pay or they use a pay service on their phone. When the power goes out, we know it's a real pain in the neck.
we have an ongoing joke. When the second my internet goes out, I walk upstairs. I go, "Mommy, I'm bored."
Yeah.
The second.
Yeah, but it's not even boredom. It's
It's tough because right, you would think, oh, let me go outside and work on something, but when you have nothing to do.
Well,
like,
people are remote for work.
Yeah.
They need access to the
so
internet
if you're
to get their work.
you would
to
think,
do their
oh,
job.
and then when you try the power's a little different because usually it's because there's like a giant storm outside.
Yeah,
So you can't go
have a
outside to
choice.
do anything. But that mentality of like, how do I put this? So I'm a proponent of, as someone who's on the internet, I'm a proponent of I need the internet for my job.
Yeah.
Same thing with the other stuff that I
Yep.
do with Kenny. We need our job because my co-partner, my brother, is in Florida. I'm in New Jersey. So it's kind of hard. Like
Well, you're in
without
Florida
the,
too.
yeah, but like for the most part, like when I'm back and forth. But like most of the time, Kenny holds down the fort down there.
Yeah.
So
And that's fine to be remote. People are working remotely all
yeah,
over the country.
but there's no point working remote if you don't have internet.
If you don't have internet,
Unless
you
for
can't
some
really
reason
do
your
anything.
job, like let's say you have like a, even then I was gonna say if you were like an artist or something and you had to get your paintings out,
Yeah.
you probably need the internet to promote that. The
Well,
amount of businesses that we
Look at students too nowadays. All their assignments are online.
yeah,
Colleges, even high schools.
even grades, like just checking your
Yeah.
report card for the week.
Yeah.
Was I mean you need the internet for that, so that kind of cancels out one of the arguments in there of like, oh,
Well, that was really the point of the whole
Yeah.
the whole article's point was so many adults now. It's not that they can't do without. It wasn't an article about I'm addicted to my phone. Their point was I need it to get through.
Yeah, it's
certain
become a
aspects
basic
of the
necessity.
day.
People are talking.
Right.
People consider it. Like, you know, you have, what is it, food, shelter, water to be the basic necessities.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure unanimously it's internet now. Like,
Well, it's on that
shelter,
list
water,
because
internet.
it's part of all of it,
Yeah.
you know. But my issue is maybe you're too reliant on the internet. Do you have to pay with your Apple phone or whatever pay service?
Yeah, there's a difference between what these people are doing, which is just trying to get by and get through their work, versus someone who's actually addicted. And not saying that some of those people aren't.
Oh yeah,
but
no,
like,
right. That's not really about that. The article.
to your
It's
point,
more-
like, think of Dad. Dad couldn't do his work if
No.
there was no internet.
No.
A lot of tax stuff is on there now.
I couldn't run this house because
TurboTax.
everything I have is
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
All our bills and everything is pretty much online. Transferring money I have to do online. Now I could drive to a bank and I could do it.
Yeah.
But I can't pay bills that I don't know about.
Imagine if we didn't have Amazon. Like, Amazon, can you imagine shopping again? Like,
Well, you can live without Amazon. You know, that's
you don't
it's
need
a con-
Prime, but I don't
it's
know.
a convenience. No, you don't. You
See,
can get in a car and go
I
to a
don't,
store.
I don't mean
you just
from,
don't do that.
No, I mean from the options standpoint. So, like, I don't know if women's stuff. Like, if there's like if one store is sold out of something,
Yeah.
that you were told, hey, this store has it. It's a lot easier just to go on Amazon and then say, oh, I found it, not have to worry about a store.
Yeah, but that's not critical. Back to your point of food, shelter,
To me,
water,
that's critical.
Food is, if you only can pay through your Apple Pay because you don't
Good
have
point.
cash.
Yeah, I guess
you can't do anything
kind
if
of
you don't have
shatter
the
my
internet.
argument.
Well, I mean, it's you're saying, but you're talking about wants versus needs.
Yeah.
Their point is these are needs now, or they perceive it as needs. Now, to say I'm not going to communicate at all seems a little drastic, but that's a different kind of need. That's a psychological
that to me,
need.
yes, that to me is more so from a failed system of focusing too much on, because the generation after me, so like Kenny's era, well, probably like more so Michael's era, they had cell phones when they were in like kindergarten, which was like an emergency phone. Right?
It's been younger and younger.
Super young kids.
Yeah.
So for them, all their conversations have been through text message or cell phone,
Yeah,
maybe.
that's fair.
Like, when was the last time Michael called a friend? Or same with Kenny. Well, Kenny calls his friends all the time, but I don't know if Michael ever calls his friends.
Mike answers a phone call like he's been in a cave for 20 years. Hello.
I always wonder.
And it even has my name on it. And he acts like he doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
Who is this? It's Mom. See, it says MOM at the bottom.
The one that I always find funny is kids trying to order something on the phone. So like
Yeah.
food or something. Usually they don't. It's a struggle. I never understood that. That's a tough one.
Well, I think it's interesting. All of you guys, you do everything on the phone before you go to the. See, the phone's my last resort. I prefer the iPad or my computer because it's bigger. I got a faster keyboard. And everything. I don't know how you guys do half the stuff you do off your phones.
I don't use my phone that much. From the only reason I use my phone is just for social media and the GoPro. That's
Right.
it. And then texting, obviously,
Right.
like friends and stuff.
And
But
calling grandma.
calling grandma and Aunt Sue. So I don't use my phone, like, in comparison to most kids. I don't use my phone that much. Like,
Right.
most kids are so, like, they'll surf the internet all the time, or they'll order stuff.
Right.
I never order any. I don't even think my credit card's on my phone.
Yeah, anything I ask
Yeah,
for Mike, he
except
goes
for-
right to his phone. Ken's sort of like that too, but it's
Yeah.
I look like it. Don't you have the receipt online somewhere? Didn't you get an email? I don't know,
Yeah.
an email.
Like, I never.
text
I
him.
actually don't like if there's something I have to do. I would rather do it on my PC rather than my phone.
Yeah, that's how
It's
I
just
am.
hard-
I just can't
it's too
see it on
hard.
the phone.
So for the younger kids, I'd expect those answers that you saw in there. But
Yeah.
for someone that's older than me, I'd be surprised. So that's why when they go, oh, well, I need it for
Well, that is-
the non-necessities, I go, what?
Yeah, I mean, I think I
Depending
would
on
be
your
up
job.
there too because of the fact that so much of my life is now digitally based.
But
Plus, I
if you're working like 16 hours a day, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think I guess I'm saying that to
It's
you
an
guys.
8-hour day, but
Yeah.
your standard work day is 8 hours.
8 hours. Yeah, but if you're working
12,
12
14
to
hours.
14, extreme cases 16, then I can see why you have to like order out or do everything on your phone because you're probably constantly on the
Yeah.
go. But a kid my age,
Yes.
how many of them are doing 16 hours? You know,
Well, no, but a kid your age would need it to pay your bills. You need
Yeah.
it to check your mortgage statement. You need it for family. If you
Yeah.
got kids in school, you got to check you got to find out assignments. You get your messages from school now through the email.
yeah,
So,
like school kids probably have it just as much, if not more, as someone who has a full-time job outside of college.
Right.
School, I would even say that it's getting worse at the younger ages
Yeah,
because
they're doing so much more
everything's online.
Well, because with COVID, they had to do everything online.
Yeah.
So now you have that. They
that's
took
a
it a
toughie.
step further. So for your generation that's watching this, I was part of the group that they transitioned kids from paper assignments to everything being on the internet. Now, you're almost at fault if you don't have everything on the internet because parents would complain. Now, they shouldn't have complained because we don't need to know the assignments the kids do.
Yeah.
But
it's a nice backup, I would say. Like
it's not a backup anymore. That's my point.
Yeah. Back
Now
then it was a backup though.
Right.
Yeah.
Back then it was kind of like getting everybody used to the idea.
There's nothing worse than at the end of the week my mom got to see my grades.
Yeah.
Sucked.
Yeah. But who wanted? I mean, in hindsight, I didn't care. But then all of a sudden, the school made it an issue where, well, didn't you see his grades last week? I'm like, well, are you telling me now I got to go online, I got to check grades to see if there's a problem? Right?
Yeah, I guess. But I'm thinking back in the 80s, 90s when kids were in school and they didn't have that, they turned out fine. Yeah, I never liked the idea of
I think they were better.
Yeah.
Because if you recall,
that's what I mean.
Miss Tone in first grade, you had an assignment book. And that was part of your training to copy down your homework.
Oh, yeah, write it down.
And you wrote it in the book before you left. It was fabulous. The next grade, teacher didn't do that. Next grade, it's up to the student to do it. So it wasn't enforced in second, it wasn't enforced in third. By the time you got to like fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, all of a sudden the parents were like, could you put it on the internet?
Yeah.
Why? Why do we have to know it? Let the kids figure it out. Because you guys didn't have internet. I didn't let you go on the computer.
Yeah,
So they forced.
sucked.
But that's what I mean.
It was like Auschwitz at our house.
They forced us into using what I felt was not helping you guys. I don't think it helped you guys
my
at all.
generation, I will say, we didn't actually so when I was in fourth grade to probably like seventh grade, you weren't actually doing anything with the internet, like in school or anything. You just had normal classes, but just your grades were online. So it's like, well, we're not even using this,
Right.
so we didn't get to enjoy it. I don't know what we learned in computer class. I was thinking about that the other day. Right,
Basic stuff because
yeah.
people weren't familiar with Word.
Yeah, I don't know what we were
learned how to
learning.
use Word. You learned
Is that
a
what it
little
was?
Excel. Yeah, the computer lab. You did a Word, a little Excel.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I mean, it's kind of funny because it's so intuitive for the early generations. My point is, we were part of the transition from gotta have internet in schools, and now it's a crisis if a kid's in a low-income area and they don't have access to the internet. I used to roll my eyes at that, but I agree. They've boxed everybody into a corner where you have to have internet to get through your school day. Well, and here's the rub. When these kids don't have access, like in college, when it crashes or whatever, no, what they do is they don't have school. They cancel classes
true.
because you can't do your work. You can't be. To me, it's kind of ridiculous. You get off your fanny and you go to class.
One
and you
cyber
write
attack.
down the assignment.
One cyber attack is all it would take.
I know,
Right?
sad but true.
Speaking of which, Surgeon General says 13 years old is too early to join social media. Do you agree?
Well, you're asking the wrong person. 'Cause I think social media is garbage. So no offense.
Yeah,
I just think it's.
The more I've kind of, as someone who's been doing social media for the last 4 years now, plus YouTube. So
Let me clarify that. I want to say like 75% of it is just useless in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. I think if you're consuming social media, I'm trying to put myself in the eyes of a 13-year-old, but I think there's definitely a time and a place for it. I think social media can be great with just like everything. It can be awesome, but there's also some bad parts of social media. I think something like TikTok, which is so random, might not be great for a 13-year-old because one minute you're watching a dance and the next minute you're watching a guy do cocaine off a street, you know,
it's just
a guy that's super high. So I think to a certain extent, I agree that 13 might be way too young to be on social media. The problem is that I think sooner or later, within the next few years, I think we're going to see the definition of social media change. Like TikTok and Facebook are not the same. Like the fact that those two are categorized the same, they're really not the same. Mm-hmm. Facebook is something to follow your friends, right? See what they're doing throughout life. TikTok
Why?
is Well, if you want to message someone that you haven't seen in like 20 years and you don't have their number, that's really the only, like, Facebook's dead.
Yeah.
No one's
So
using
that's
Facebook.
about probably 1% of what
Yeah.
Facebook's ever used for. Right?
Yeah. What?
Reaching out to that friend you haven't seen in like 20
Well,
years.
and no, that's probably opposite. It's probably 75%. The other 25% is the stuff that I don't even use, which is like the Facebook Marketplace, Facebook. Like, the most common one is adding your friends. Like, that's the whole point of it.
Right. But now you get back into what is the quality of that? Okay, so you reach out to a friend from 20 years ago, you make the connection, now you're Facebooking each other, or Facebook friends, whatever. Then what does it become? Here's little Susie on her bike. Here's little Jimmy in his car. Here's
Oh, yeah.
little Bobby in
That
grade
part's
school.
pointless.
This is what got
But that,
reward.
to me, is harmless
Why?
in comparison to something on TikTok, which is what I just said. You have a dance versus a guy who's literally in a fist fight with...
So can I just say, take a step back as a human being, okay? Big step back. So you're overseeing the world and you're watching what they're doing. TikTok, yes, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's just one example. Facebook, all this stuff, right? It's just an opportunity to spend more time in front of entertainment than doing something else.
Yeah.
Now you can say better, worse, whatever.
Yeah, but again, you can use those for other things.
But they don't. And especially when you
The
talk
majority,
younger
yes.
people.
Yeah,
okay?
13-year-olds are
It's
not
just
getting the
pure-
benefits of that.
It's brain candy. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And they don't know when to stop. I don't know how these kids get anything out of their day. Literally, my generation as a kid, your parents would yell, "Shut the TV off." That was our brain candy. Half-hour sitcoms, cartoons. But you shut it off. You walked away.
Yeah.
You could sneak TV, but your parents knew it, right? It wasn't in your hand 24/7. Walking out the door, going in the bathroom, going out to the car. It's constant, constant, constant. And for young people especially, and I think adults who've grown up with it, they can't stop. Not to say they, I'll shut it off to go to work. They don't stop at work. They're constantly wanting to look at this. But again, they're not learning math formulas. They're not learning history. They're not learning something. They're not reading a book. This is just pure
Right, but
brain
again,
candy.
that's because of what's being thrown onto it. Like, if you again, we're not going to go into the whole algorithm thing, but I'm not saying you can't get a good education from. Well, okay. Hold on, let me phrase that. I think there are educational paths on something like a TikTok, Instagram, or whatever.
Sure.
But let's be honest, the average 13-year-old's
They're not
not
gonna do
going to be
that.
looking at that.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it starts that way at 13, by 16, 17, 18,
What happens?
they're so ingrained in it that, God forbid, they see a math one in there or whatever it is.
Right.
They get this off, get it off. I don't need that. I want the junk, right? Sure, you can eat broccoli and spinach and fruit. No, I want the candy bars and the junk. And they don't have that control. Adults don't have it.
Yeah,
they've
I mean,
got that bad.
as we just saw, like with the social media and stuff based on your last article,
Right.
I mean, yeah, it can consume you. Like for me, I'm not a big social media person. I just post to social media. Like if you look at my accounts, I don't follow anyone or very few. I follow some friends. I follow Kenny and Mike on TikTok, but like even Snapchat's kind of dead. I don't know anyone that really posts on Snapchat anymore except for Kenny.
Well, when I
his
look at the
friends,
garbage that's on Facebook too, and on some of these other sites, garbage being randomly picking somebody that says, "Oh, take a look at this site." It's oh my gosh.
Well, I don't know what you mean
Here
by
am
that.
I at a Facebook when you post pictures and stuff, right? So in the past it was, it's a nice opportunity for grandma to see pictures of their grandchild, right?
Yeah.
You could, this is what we did today, and you post pictures on there. Okay,
Right.
I get that. But then it became, and I'll keep that same theme. Here's little Jimmy with the duck in the tub. Here he's with his soap. Here's with the washcloth. Here
Yeah,
he's
it
up
got
there,
too
he's up
crazy,
there.
yeah.
Then I see young people, right? And it's, here I am at the bar. Here I am with this guy at the bar. Here I am with this girl at the bar. Here's all three of us at the bar. Here's another picture of me standing at the bar with a drink. Okay?
Yeah.
There's no filter anymore for young people as
What should be on the internet and what's not?
well, not only that, I look at that. Now your generation looks at that, and you look at all the pictures. You're
Yeah.
used to that. You're like, oh, here's Joe with her at the bar. Here's blah blah blah. I look at it and say, oh my God, enough with the picture. Take one picture at the bar and let it go. People don't want to see 20 different poses.
Yeah,
But that's
agreed.
my generation. I have better things to do with my time. And I don't say that insultingly. I mean it in that that's how you guys are ingrained. You
Right.
don't have better things to do with your time. That becomes your time. It's gotten to the point, like I said, at stores. You used to be banned to use your phone. Now the phone's right there by the cash register. And if a kid has 2 seconds while you're trying to get your money out, he's on his phone.
Yeah. I always think of the kids at the dinner table. Right? I was
That
looking
too,
at
yeah, we
when we
talked
were
about
at the
that last
wedding
time.
yesterday. I was thinking of all these kids that are on their phones.
Yeah.
There's no one that young. I think Emma's the youngest. Like, and then it was a big drop off. I didn't see anyone under 20 there, except for Michael and Dan. But like
I'd
even
say
then,
somebody
a lot of
asked
kids-
me, one of my friends, not related to it, said, "Oh, do you have any pictures?" I go, "No, I didn't take any pictures. I didn't take my phone out once."
Yeah, I'm not a picture taker. People always give me shit for that. I'm not a
But
picture
I
taker.
see other adults. I'm not just saying young people. I see adults with the phone out. And again, it's not bad to do at a wedding. I'm not saying that that's when you do
Yeah.
stuff like that. But for me, I'm more in the moment, and I'm always assuming somebody else, like at a wedding, is a professional.
Like I have the
photographer.
ones from the dances last night, but not from like. There's none of me. It's
Right.
all Jess.
Of other people,
yeah,
right?
It's
Or-
not. So people are like, why did you not take pictures? And
Right.
why don't you take more pictures? It's like, I'm not whipping my phone out every 5 seconds. Whereas
selfie stuff drives me crazy.
Yeah, like
and
the people on Facebook who will post entire timelines of their night on a
Exactly.
Saturday. That's insane to me. Like how you must be the least favorite person at a party.
right. But that's my point. Don't you have something else to do with your time? And they don't. And I'm not saying that in an insulting way. I'm saying that has become
I think-
how young people
Now,
spend
let me
their
ask you this,
time.
though. Agreed. Let me ask you this. Do you think, and I say this all the time to people, but I think it's not so much that they're, I forget, what was the word you just used? Not that they're not necessarily that they're wasting their time.
Uh-huh.
I think it's just they haven't found a hobby or something that they like doing. And I know most of my generation, unfortunately, it's my hobby is going to the bar and drinking like crazy and then posting it on Facebook.
But
That's their hobby.
I'm not saying it as a negative of what they're doing. They could be mountain climbing. How many freaking pictures do you need to post
Right,
of you
but that's what I
mountain
mean.
climbing?
That's their hobby. The photos. It's not the act of
Right,
the
they
going
don't-
to the bar. The thing to them, it's not
It's not-
verified until they have the photos on
Right.
Facebook.
It's not living your life. It's documenting your life.
Exactly, yeah.
And at some point, you're documenting a life that you're doing the same thing all night long and showing it to people that, guess what? I have better things to do with my life
Yeah.
than see what you did with your life. I don't mind seeing a picture of you mountain climbing or your
I don't
kid
want
in
to
a
see
race.
50 of them.
Right. I don't have time for 50 of them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to be like arrogant or snobbish. I just ask myself, what the hell else are these people doing? If that's just one thing they did, imagine they took 50 pictures of everything they're doing. What kind of life is that?
Yeah.
And then they wonder why that generation says they're isolated or they're sad or they're depressed. Somebody did I might have said this on the podcast, but he was a HR person walking around with a CEO from years gone by into a current day office space when people were in the office and they were in cubicles and they're walking around, and he says, do you notice something different from this workforce than when you were the CEO, when you ran your company many, many years ago? And the guy goes, oh yeah, I see well, actually he didn't see it. So maybe it was the HR person who didn't see it. The CEO asked the question. And he was like, I don't know what do you mean. The cubes, blah, blah, blah. They're all working, blah, blah, blah. He goes, look at the desks. All the pictures on the desks were of the employee.
Right, you told me that.
Yeah. You used to have pictures of your family, your kid, your house, your parents, something other than you.
Yeah.
That's very telling. And that was, 5-10 years ago. And now you see, so it's very you-centered and what you do. And sometimes I feel like, maybe not intentionally, but we've created a competition.
Yeah,
And-
who's got the best photo? But the competition also comes from the likes and dislikes
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
social media, right? You always get excited when when I see something gets a lot of views of mine, yeah, it's exciting, and you want that. But the difference is, I'm trying to build a
That's your
business.
work
I'm
type.
not,
Yeah.
I'm trying to build a business. I'm not someone that's just wants to show off to my friends.
Right.
Like, here's a great example. I have a friend. If she ever listens to this, she'll know who she is. But they were on Facebook. They're in Iceland right now.
Yeah.
I feel like I went to Iceland with them. That's how many pictures she posted.
yeah.
And every time, I try to refresh the page, and it's just more pictures of Iceland. So I could not care less.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. It's like, how do you I get you're on vacation, but keep those pictures in a folder for you. You don't have to keep them on Facebook.
Right.
And the argument is, oh, well, we're putting it on Facebook so that never disappears and we don't lose them. It's like, are you really? Is that really why you're doing it?
Yeah, that's not why.
Yeah, it's obvious. Like when it gets that obvious.
So imagine if you're, and I think 13 is even old. Imagine if you're 8 and 9 years old and your friend is constantly posting Disneyland.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You've never been
Yeah.
there. And your friend is posting all the awards
I think
she
they
got
say
in school
I
and
think
you
they
never
say
got
13
one.
because I think that's the terms of service agreements.
Yeah.
Kids on there are
Well,
younger,
and
but
honestly, when you
the real question is
much
here,
younger,
what is the right age? That's really what they're asking. What's the right age to be able to navigate social media? And truth be told, I don't think it's an age thing. I think it's just a maturity thing and how much you have your life together.
Yeah, but you can't do it that way.
I know.
Right?
That's the sad thing.
There's a lot of 21-year-olds that I think are still very immature, and there's a lot of 18-year-olds that I'm astounded by, you know? It's fewer and far between that 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds are as mature as they used to be in days gone by. Having said that, I don't think you can you can't do it subjectively. You have to have a cutoff. How are you going to do remember, they tried a long time ago to put all sorts of parental things on phones and whatnot. I guess you could still do it, but it's a joke.
That doesn't help with social media. The definition to me of social media is throw shit at the wall until something sticks. That's basically what all social media is.
Right.
So because there's no navigational categories, let's put it that way, the fact that a 13-year-old can see the same thing that a 25-year-old seeing, something about that's not right to me. So to me, that's why I say, like, it's got to be older than 13. 13 is way too young. So if you can't navigate certain things of what's okay to watch and what's not okay to watch, I always think of the prank channels back in the day on YouTube, right? Some people look at those guys as if they were the coolest guys on YouTube, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're good people. You have to grow out of that at some point.
Well, and you're giving 13-year-olds a lot of credit. They like whatever their friends tell them to like. So if a friend is saying, the cool kids really like this type of game or whatever, well, that 13-year-old wants to be part of that group, and they're going to want to play those games and do those things, or they're going to feel left out. So
there's just so many factors to social media that there's no real right or there's definitely a wrong answer, but there's really no right answer as to not
but
so
I'll
much.
Also say this: we're too busy protecting young people. Okay, so I was watching some show and somebody they made a comment like, my kid I got called a weirdo today at school, right? And it was devastating. And it's not good. But I just looked at your dad and I go, weird. I think I've had days where people called me weirdo like 10 times in the school day. It was a good thing because you became immune to it.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, if you start saying...
Just wait till you have a YouTube channel. You get to hear shit all the time.
I mean...
Just wait till you're out in the internet.
Right. When we were younger, people said stuff all the time. It wasn't out in the universe, okay? But it was devastating enough when you're in a small high school or even just a high school, right? That's your community. That's your world. Now you've opened it up to other schools and other things with the bigger world with social media. But I also don't think it's good to put kids in a bubble either and say you can't see everything on social media.
At some point you got to navigate the world on your own.
Right. We've just made it so much harder for young people to have that level of maturity that now you got to face the whole world every day.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And why would a parent want that? I mean, you guys complain with us, but I just saw no value in it when you were really young. There's no way. And I didn't even understand the full expanse of it. It's gotten worse, too.
It's gotten way worse, yeah. Facebook, when Facebook started for me, I didn't make one till like 3 years after it came out. And that was, as I said, it's just friends, family, whatever. Now it's all news. Like, my feed is just news. It's some Facebook gaming that's flubbed their numbers for the last 6 years. It's become too hard to navigate even for me. Right, that's why I just don't even bother anymore.
I remembered a mom from your school. I won't say the name.
You can cut it. I can cut it. Tell me. Oh, yeah.
So before Facebook, you had, what was it called? Map Place or something like that?
Yeah, MySpace.
MySpace. Okay. I remember her telling me on Caroline with her older son. Her kids didn't do any of that stuff, the two older ones, right? Or the oldest son. He didn't want any part of it, didn't want to do it because it was brand new and it was pointless. He's like, this is garbage.
MySpace was actually before my time.
Yes. Right, because he was a little older.
I was probably in like 7th grade when that came out.
But all of a sudden, she says he found out that kids were trashing him on this site. Well, he was oblivious to it, right? But that was his world. come to school. And fortunately, I think he was a fairly confident kid. He wasn't like
My whole
devastated
family
by
was.
it, but he was pissed
Yeah.
that this was going on, right?
Right.
It forced him to go on, have an account to defend himself on comments that he didn't want to know about in the first place.
Right.
So this other world was created where he was fine to defend himself to any person in a hallway and
It's
whatever.
when people can't say it to your face.
Right.
But that's like 90% of the internet. Like you've come to realize, like,
Which is why I go back to it's a joke, and it's something that, do we really want to have to raise a world of human beings that have to fight battles behind their back? What's the point?
yeah, that's like the dark parts of social media. Like I think that's the darkest of dark in the sense of, well, besides like any black market stuff, but like most of the time that's not what. So back in the day for kids, yes, but nowadays it's not like
psychological.
the psychological
saying,
warfare. Yeah, that's
right.
tough.
I'm saying that little girl that doesn't have a lot of money, can't buy the clothes, can't dress, and she knows these other girls are doing all these things and they have all this nice stuff. I consider that behind the back. So it's like an indirect.
My rule with anything online, like especially one of my biggest, I don't want to say qualms because I understand why they do it, but like when people complain on the internet, like like YouTubers, for instance, not personal people. I mean people that run a business or something. Yeah. When you're deleting people's comments because you didn't like what they said, it's like, to me, it's you kind of signed up for this. Yeah. You're gonna get backlash. You're gonna get hate. Right. If you don't have thick enough skin to be able to handle that, you shouldn't be on the internet.
Right.
And now people say, oh well, that shouldn't be a reason to not be creative. Agreed, but there's
you gotta take the good. With the bad.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, it's not roses and rainbows all the way through this. You got to navigate through the shit whether you like it or not.
Right.
And I think no matter what you do on the internet, like even take Indeed for instance, that the job website, that place has become a shit show because of how nightmarish it's become with robots, people that have made fake businesses that says we're hiring and then they just steal money or whatever. Yeah. There's good with the bad with everything. For a 13-year-old, even I struggle to navigate through some of that stuff.
Right.
I can't imagine a 13-year-old. Like, God bless those YouTubers that started at like 13. How the hell did you get through that?
Right.
I don't know how they did that. I started mine at 18.
Yeah.
So, some people, like one of the big creators is that JoJo Siwa. You ever heard that name? I think she started at like 7.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. I don't know how. She must have never looked at a YouTube comment.
Well, it's probably adults that were doing it to further her career.
And even then, can you imagine being the parent that was like, man, this guy just called my daughter, who's 7, a piece of shit?
No, when
you're
when you're putting a 7-year-old out there as a commodity, you're working on a whole different range.
It worked out, luckily, but like it's scary to me what a 13-year-old can go to in that regard.
Well, I think, here's my take. I think you're going to reach a point where it's going to backlash in the sense that at some point most people start to realize every kid has an award. Every kid won a prize. Every kid is mountain climbing.
Yeah, it's tough for me to weigh in on it because I've had Facebook for 10 plus years. No, way more than that. Probably 15 years now. I can count on one hand how many times I've ever posted something. So like I have no reference for what goes on in the world of the actual posting stuff. It's different for me because I'm running a business now, as I said. So I'm posting, and you post on 7 different platforms or whatever it is, and then I don't really look at anything.
Right.
I'll respond to some comments. Luckily, I'm very fortunate I don't have that many negative comments, but
I think social media for a 13-year-old, you're talking more
again, if you're running a business as a 13-year-old, which is actually possible now. At 13, you couldn't.
Yes.
That's the good and the bad of social media. Like if you're just doing the friend thing that we were talking about, whatever. That's whatever you make of it. But if you're a 13-year-old who's like, I could actually start a business this way, which is, again, it sounds crazy, but it is plausible because a couple people have done it now. That's another road. That's like another angle that we could talk about. But to your point, it's all the same.
But and I think in a sad way, what will happen for the younger generation as well, we went through this period of kids getting the whole bullying phase. Oh, the bullying. I'm sure it still continues, but I feel like you hear less of it because it's become so commonplace that nobody takes it seriously anymore. I don't want to insult anybody who's getting upset. I think it's just becoming like run of the mill. Oh, guess what? My little girl's gonna get bashed for this.
I'm gonna take it a different way. I think because social media has become so big and so much shit is just thrown at
Yeah.
you, like you can't even see the negative
Right. You
comments
can't
anymore.
process
Yeah.
all that information
I
anymore.
get more bot accounts responding to posts that I do than
Right.
actual people of negative comments. So I see more bot accounts than I do negative comments,
Right.
which is like I think that's very common.
Yeah, and also I think for that reason too, because there's so much information out there, the opposite is happening where people aren't wasting their time on the 20 pictures of you mountain climbing.
Yes.
You may have posted
Yeah.
them, but I'm like, I saw one, I'm fine.
Like
I'm
my
going to move
Facebook-
over to this friend, see what she did.
Right.
I'm going to move over to this guy, see what he did. That's the interesting part, whereas more and more information overload comes in, now people the opposites, the pendulum swings, and
Yes.
people are like, I
I
don't waste
think
time on
a
this, I
lot
don't
of
waste
it,
time on this.
like for me, my Facebook feed is mostly just news from. Excuse me. Facebook's actually quite good at, besides the friend stuff. So I see friend stuff, but it's kind of rare. Facebook's actually quite good at giving me what I want in the sense of news. So like most of my feed's all gaming stuff. I don't follow any gaming things, but they know, oh, you have a lot of gaming stuff. Like you've seen a lot of gaming stuff, so we're going to keep throwing that at you. I don't really get political news on Facebook anymore. Same with Twitter. I think they've gotten better at that. But
You would want it.
well, that's what I mean. Like I'm not in those alleys. If I was in those alleys, I don't know if I can navigate those. But like for me, it's very easy now to turn off the social medias because there's nothing in there that's really like captivating to me,
Right.
or that I can't look up on my own. So I feel like Facebook. I hate to say it, but like, well, not hate to say it, but I feel like Facebook and Instagram are pretty much dead at this point.
Well, I think it's going to be harder for people to spend time looking for good content. And when I mean good, I don't mean it's necessarily good stuff. I mean good for them, because there's just so much out there and it's constant that I'm hoping the pendulum swings, because I think we've got a whole generation of individuals. I think it's bad seeing my generation how bad some of the adults have become with social media. We did not grow up with it.
it's
and
funny.
They have
I know
embraced it to a negative.
I know some people around your age that post more than any 16-year-old or 13-year-old on
I
Facebook.
know.
I got some friends on there
I'm
that
absolutely
I'm like, what
shocked
the hell?
at things people I know, of things I hear, or things that their children post, like their
Yeah.
young adult children.
you know what
post,
always gets me?
And they feed into it, right?
What always gets me surprised is like those people that post stuff to the internet. If you ask them in person, would you show this to me in person? They would probably say no. Like it's almost like
Right,
their whole
yeah.
mindset changes of,
Yeah.
oh, I'm fine with posting my kid's childhood pictures of him running around naked in the backyard, but in
Not
a public,
anymore,
yeah,
because
it's
now it gets taken up by porn
it's
sites.
weird, yeah.
God.
It's very weird how some people are that open on the internet, but won't be open with you
Yeah.
in person.
Yeah.
Like the whole mindset changes. Like it gets skewed on the internet.
I've
But-
seen young couples. Somebody forwarded to me. They were getting married, so they're engaged.
Mm-hmm.
Writing these deeply personal things, how much they love each other. You're my life. You're my world, and posting it on Facebook. And the mindset is, well, we love each other so much, we want the world to know. Okay, number one, the world doesn't care.
Yeah, right. It's like you think it's funny because you see 5 likes on something and you go, the world wants to see this.
Right.
Like no one, the amount of posts that have over like 10,000 likes on Facebook
Yeah.
is like 0.0001%.
But what's cringy?
You're not the
right.
Yeah.
And what's cringy is I know people who know them who go on just because they want to see how cringy it is. Right.
Yeah, it's
So
so
they're not
common.
even in it. Right. And then what's bizarre to me is a relative, an adult of theirs, is adding to it. Oh, it's so wonderful to see your life. I see this garbage. I'm like, all 3 of these people.
saw-
Do they not
there was
have
a-
something better to do with their time?
There was a meme a while ago of this girl who's like, I'm on my 5th baby daddy. Right. And then underneath the grandmother posts, love you, sweetheart. Can't wait to see you soon.
Oh, my
it's like
gosh.
she didn't even read it. It's so funny. There's a lot of those though. But
that's what I'm saying. I think it's getting to the point with so much garbage, and a 13-year-old. I mean, my only answer for people, and I know parents will cringe when they hear this, is people got to get a life.
yeah.
13-year-olds
Agreed.
need to be busier doing other things. And I don't understand, because they're always running around from this sport to this, to that, the other thing, this class, that class. Where they have time for that tells me they're doing it during the sport, during the class, during the this, during the that.
Or at night when they're supposed to be sleeping.
Right. And what did they call it a long time ago? Artificial ADD.
Artificial ADD. That's a good.
Creating an ADD. Like the minivan movies in the car.
Yeah.
years ago. So I was asking about the handheld stuff, right, or the computer games, and a doctor from a school psychiatrist said, "I'm not as concerned about that as I am about the movies in the car. These kids can't go from school to home without their brain being stimulated."
That's a weird one to me because I remember, I think the same family that you said before. I think it was them, but they would have the TV in the back of the car just up to their house, which was like a 5-minute drive. Remember that?
I don't know if they used.
I don't
the
think
TV,
it was.
but
I don't think it was them. Maybe it was someone else.
I see it all the time. The parents are like immediately flipping on the DVD. Look out the window. Oh no, kids can't do that. You can't have a kid. They'll cry. They'll complain. Then tell them to stop.
Really? I like looking out the window.
Well,
sometimes I'll put my head on the glass.
No. Now you do, but you guys never wanted that. You
Growing up,
hated
yeah.
it in the car. We're bored. We're this. We're that. You know what? So was I. But we didn't have the option. You guys knew you had another option.
Yeah, but your dad was smoking in the car as you guys were breathing it in.
Yeah, that's our parents, right? They didn't even hear us. They were like brain dead to it. But that was our generation, and you just learned. Just look out the window and suck it up because this is the trip. So,
speaking of, even though 13-year-olds can't navigate the world, you know what they can navigate, Mom?
What?
Bitcoin surged to 100.
Oh, jeez, the Bitcoin.
I saw this one today, and I always find these funny. I always have to call out these analysts every time. Bitcoin surged to 180,000 in May. May be incoming. May be incoming.
Coming
it doesn't
up.
say when. Yeah, I thought I meant May. I always love these because they're baseless. There's no the only reason that I can see this happening is right. They see one Bitcoin like cryptocurrency go up and they're like, we're shooting for the moon. So this guy, I'm not looking at it, but this guy basically said, guy who remains to be anonymous, and now says Dave the Wave tells 135,000 that multiple technical indicators are turning bullish for the BTC. Now I'd love to ask Kenny this because Kenny's upstairs, but I think Kenny and I have the same answer. No, it's not going up anytime soon to 180,000. I don't even know what we're at right now. Does anyone pay attention to Bitcoin anymore?
I don't know. It's getting a lot of negative press since the E.S.T.
Oh, okay, it's gone up a little bit.
Bankman Free.
Yeah, that definitely did help. Oh, I didn't realize that. When was this? So yesterday was. Oh, okay. That was one day. I was like, that's a big drop in a day, but it's right now it's at 23,000, which is actually pretty good. Like I would have said it was 19 right now, but I don't understand how you can look people in the eye, see it at 23,000 right now and dipping, and then look people in the eye and say we're gonna get to 180,000 a coin.
Well, sometimes people do that to stimulate the market.
The reason, you do that to stimulate the market, or because you're someone who has their entire net worth in Bitcoin and you need to bring it up.
Right.
So I just don't understand how there's not. I understand there's no regulations and stuff. That's the point of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But how can you allow, just for those of you that are into crypto, I'm not even making fun of these guys. How can you look at the price of Bitcoin right now, see how bad it's been with FTX?
Mm-hmm.
Another one we're going to talk about in a second. How can you look at this and go, I think we're going to hit 180,000 pretty soon?
Yeah, but I'm not pro or anti Bitcoin, but that's how the stocks used to be. It's called a penny stock.
Not that level, though. Really?
Well,
you
a
think
penny
so?
stock used to be
Yeah.
for a very small amount. You hype it. It had potential. 1 or 2 days, it shot up for some reason. People sold
Well, that's like
it
the
and made money.
OTC market, right?
Right. I mean, it's for as much as people rap the Bitcoin and it's a joke and it's this and it's that. Guess what? That's how the stock market started.
I wouldn't say it's a joke. I just think it's so unfair.
It's a Ponzi scheme. Everybody likes to say it's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I just think it's kind of ridiculous how someone can see the price of Bitcoin at this like we had this huge high at 60, I think it got up to, and then it just dropped. It has dropped for the last year now, and then someone's gonna look you in the eye after all of the shit, basically the shit we've gone through with the Sam Bankman-Fried and all the FTX stuff, and then go, it's gonna go up to 180,000 a coin. It's so like that to me is unrealistic, especially when when you look at
go over and you hope that people settle somewhere in the middle,
yes.
right? But
it just scares me that a lot of these crypto kids, and I call them crypto kids, who are in their 20s, like early 20s, probably still in college, and they're like, I could get some crypto here.
Yeah.
They're gonna go by this guy that has followers,
right.
but through Uncle we know it's not going up. Like
Right.
Uncle knows people that know the crypto world. It's not going up to 180.
Right.
Don't
You'll
get me
make
wrong.
some
It's going to
money.
go up.
Yeah.
It will go up
realistic
eventually.
amount.
But I just don't. People are saying a bull to 180. No, it's going to go from 23 to 30 to 40 to 50 to 60. It's going to be 60 for a while.
The only thing I could say that might drive it is there's a real issue with currencies right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing big changes in the currency world, meaning you have what's called the BRIC.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Brazil, Iran, Russia, what is it? Who's to say? Colombia, maybe? They want to do their own currency, which the U.S. dollar used to be the gold standard. Or I use that term, like the main standard, the dollar-based standard. And because of, for a lot of reasons, political and otherwise, these other countries are now realizing, why should the dollar be the standard? Their deficits are through the roof. They can't afford to pay it. They're fighting over debt ceiling. We're a creditor nation, meaning we borrow to pay our debts, which is unbelievable. And that borrowing is out of control. And we borrow from places like China, our enemy. So they're smartening up to say, why is that the standard? Why don't we form our own currencies? You had the euro, which is kind of a disaster. A lot of them are trying to get out of the euro now because they realize there's a lot of rules that comes with that. But having said that, what could be appealing as we all start to hear more about, well, we're going to do digital currency. UK wants to do digital currency.
The problem is it's just not backed by anything. Can you imagine how manipulated that's going to be if it's government run? Like, that's the big fear of crypto. Like
not crypto. This is
well,
digital.
they're on a digital currency. I mean, any type of. If you did a digital currency, it still has to be backed by something.
Well, in other words, they're going to take your bank account and turn it into digital currency.
Yeah.
So there's no actual cash to get out at the bank. It's all a book entry, right? It's still your money, and it's a book entry, and bank would monitor it.
How do you print? If you have to print money for the new currency, what do you do?
Well, that's their point. You won't have to print money. Everything's digital.
Everything's digital, but you can easily manipulate the market.
Exactly.
That way. Yeah.
And you can also easily introduce a social credit score.
I don't know what's worse in your opinion. Companies managing and screwing up the currencies or the government manipulating currencies?
Government's worse.
Yeah, I agree. So I would be very would you say you're pro digital?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, okay, I was going to say.
I have
I was
nothing
like,
to
there's
do
no
with
way.
it. Yeah, no, because that's purely controlling humans through their money.
It's insane.
Right. So they can flip a switch and say, you know what? Chase Manhattan Bank, Christopher Catucci does not have access to $100,000 of
That's
his
what
money
happened to
because he
Kanye,
broke
right?
a rule. That's what happens in China every day. It's a social credit score. And although they claim up, down, and sideways, it'll never happen here, a lot of stuff they told us would never happen. We're finding out has been happening
getting
for
close.
decades in this country.
Yes.
So now when you start messing with people's money, now you got issues, right? So if you hand over that control, and I'm not saying we're even handing it over. A lot of people don't even know this is going on. The UK, they've announced that they're going to try and do it on a trial basis, right?
That's a scary, scary slope.
So having said that, it's appealing for crypto because that's outside of the banking system. So, okay, fine. You want to take all my money and take over my accounts with something digital? I'm going to take my money out before you do that, and I'll put it in the crypto world. You can't touch that, right? The IRS is pushing hard this year about on their tax returns. They want to know if you do any digital currency or any crypto type currency. They were on the outskirts of that the last few years, but now they're going hard on it because that's the direction they're going in. So you might see some value in the crypto world go up if you see more and more countries moving towards these currencies.
Yeah, I mean, if you're saying that, then maybe that's true. I just don't see it. Again, I don't see it going from 20,000 right now to 180.
No, I don't
right?
think that'll happen.
That's what I mean. It's going to be a gradual if it does go to 180.
Right.
180 to me sounds like a lot, but I mean, let me say that's a lot better than those other crypto billionaires that are like, it's going to go up to $70 million in the next year.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
I just foresee such a crash on all the countries' currencies soon. Such an adjustment, we'll say, a major readjustment to the point where citizens, people, money, regardless of what currency it is going to be worth nothing. They're going to go back to what is it being backed by? Gold, silver, whatever's of value. And I'm not saying it's imminent, but I just don't understand how the world could continue before everything is worthless. And then you go back to bartering. What do you barter with? You barter with goods that people want. What's of value? Either other goods and services or gold and silver, something tangible, or lithium, or whatever people really carbon credits, whatever people really need. That will be what backs that currency.
I think carbon credits is going to be a big deal in the next year or two. I think that's going to be a huge form of currency.
Could be, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Speaking of, I'm trying to transition this one. I'm trying to work on my transitions. Speaking of failing companies, the Adani group, did you see this?
Yes.
Adani? Mm-hmm. This is kind of funny to me because a year ago when this guy, not even a year ago, this was probably 6 months ago, where that guy kind of came out of nowhere and became the third largest billionaire, like he's the third wealthiest person in the world. Yep. I was like, I've never heard of this guy, and now he's ahead of, I think he was ahead of Bezos for a little bit there. So Adani is an Indian company that I actually don't even know what they do. I think they're like an Amazon. I'm not 100% sure.
Multiple companies under his group.
Well,
some are sites, some are financial groups.
Yes, so it's a lot of things. It's kind of like he's basically the Indian Elon Musk over there, right?
Yeah.
But without the tech, he's more of like a financial guy. So they just did their yearly reports of stuff, and they're like how many billions they made. But what's interesting about what happened is that all the companies that they looked into, they're like, something's not balancing out here. Mm-hmm. Turns out a lot of the companies that they had were shell companies.
Yeah.
So shell as in companies that were on paper but not actually run.
Right.
So they were basically using those to launder money. Mm-hmm. So again, not to go into this, you can probably explain it better than I can. Too bad Uncle's not here. Uncle could explain this really well. But essentially what they did was they would have these multi-billion-dollar companies with only like 12 employees that they couldn't even find, and it crashed their stock market. Like that's how important this Adani group was. But that's it. It makes sense because it's amazing how this guy, if you remember, went from a nobody, like we've never heard of him, to the second wealthiest man in the world. I was like, how's this possible? Turns out, as I said. So essentially what he was doing was, instead of factoring he would use a lot of the tax loopholes of having multiple companies, and then he would move the debts to like those shell companies and then just file for bankruptcy to get rid of the debt. And they just basically caught on. It doesn't sound like it was their country that actually caught on. It was the Heidelberg. Heidelberg.
That was a financial group.
Yeah.
In Germany,
right? Yes.
Yeah.
They're the ones that like do all the records to see what everything's going on. They just want to see the valuations and stuff.
So keep in mind, they don't have the same reporting requirements in these other countries that we have, and that the UK has, and some of the more Western cultures have that rely on the stock market, whatever else. So places like India, when they start these companies, they don't have to do the financial reporting. Mm-hmm. Having said that, that's why a lot of American companies are hesitant to invest in these places without good financial statements. Right. And you don't want to insult these people by saying, I don't like what I'm looking here. You have to work with what they give you. Yeah. But shame on, Western companies now that are investing more and more in these groups and not doing the due diligence. They're relying on what's being given to them.
Well, I think that's why they built this guy up, because he can build a reputation by being the wealthiest man in the world, or second wealthiest man.
Right.
So they said, oh, well, he's the second wealthiest man. Of course we can invest.
Right.
And that's essentially what happened. Right. So, and then when they did the breakdown, as my mom said, in those Western countries, they don't have the rules and regulations of what you have to show and what not to show.
Right.
They just know I think for them it's just how many debts versus how much you're making.
Right.
And here we have a lot more than that. But
and a lot of companies they do shell companies. I mean, it's a
not
common practice.
Yeah.
But you have to dig, and all the more reason if somebody's the third wealthiest in the world, you would think somebody would take the time to say, let's see what's really about what this is about.
And this German company did. They say, let's really look into this.
Yeah.
And I mean, shell companies, how do I put this without... If you have one shell company, you could probably get away with it. If you have 12 shell companies, you're not getting away with it, right?
Well,
and that's what these guys did.
Right, and you're the third wealthiest person.
People are going to have eyes on you.
They should. Yeah. And here, how long did they go that he was able to churn out these companies and make paper profits, I assume, at such a level, and finally somebody, like same thing with Sam Bankman-Fried. Something triggered them finding this guy. Obviously, they knew
Yeah.
this was going on for a while, but all of a sudden he got exposed. Those are, for lack of a better word, shell-type companies. He sets up these financial groups to move money around, crypto, whatever, and then it goes off into all these other countries, to the Ukraine or wherever else. Nobody's tracking it. He's doing book entries, and they finally uncovered, hey, wait a minute, this guy's doing transactions, and you know who did it? It wasn't a government agency that uncovered it. It was an investor in another company in his group that said, wait a minute, he's doing entries that he's not backing up. So he wasn't following the rules and regs that were required. That's how they identified that he was doing some questionable things. Okay. We do have those type of requirements. And I think he was out in the Bahamas. I think he formed these companies in the Bahamas.
So you're talking about Sam
Sam
Bankman-Fried?
So
Yeah.
they don't have the same rules. India doesn't. They
Right.
don't have the same rules. But once you start getting investors from other countries, it's you would think more of these companies would start to do the due diligence ahead of time.
Yeah, unless they're in cahoots with the idea. Like that's the...
Or, like in the case of Sam Bankman-Fried, they get burned by them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an investor that was not happy with something and said, let's start digging and see what's going on. And they exposed what was happening. So somebody doesn't like Mr. Adani and his group over there, turns around and says, you know what, maybe it's time you start investigating Mr. Billionaire. Then they go in and they dig through, and that's when they find this stuff out. But before that, everybody's making money, so everybody's happy, right? When somebody doesn't make money all of a sudden, now they decide, I want to look and see.
Yeah.
That's the irony.
I don't know who would... Yeah, I don't... Sorry. I don't know how many investors and stuff were there, but this guy lost $51 billion to his net worth, which dropped him all the way down to the seventh wealthiest person in the world. Yeah. My guess is when everything comes out, you won't be hearing about this guy anymore because I don't believe he's going to be as successful. I don't even think he's going to be on the list anymore if you actually break it down, because right now they're doing damage control and it's not looking good for them.
By the way, he's from India. Okay. How hard is it to be one of the wealthiest people in India? But that wasn't good enough. He had to, push it even farther and make it even bigger.
Okay,
bigger.
Let's take that back because people might misinterpret that. India is it's a country where some people are incredibly successful and others aren't. Yeah. It's very, like, the fact that we have a middle class is amazing. Most countries don't have that. India does not.
Right.
So what my mom's trying to say is, if he just, like, he was already doing well to begin with. He didn't have
enough?
Yeah, he didn't have to go to be the If he never shot for the moon, we wouldn't even be talking about this. Yeah.
Right.
He decided to shoot for the moon and now he's failing.
Right. I'm sure he was very prestigious, powerful person in India without having to attain the wealth he had with multiple shell companies and everything else, just based on one corporate. Yeah. Because it's very hard to do that.
And it was probably a legitimate company, the first one.
When it started,
the first one that got him to his first billion. Yeah. But then to go, I'm going to go for $230 billion.
Right.
Now people are going to ask some questions. In a year?
Yeah.
Come on. So
greed is one of the 7 deadly sins.
Oh, no. GoPro searching. Okay, it looks like we're still good, though.
We almost done?
I think so. How's
I'm done. I had one more. Wake up call for Democrats. UK's single-payer health system is failing. So we touched upon this about healthcare when we were chatting about it on some other topic. So the UK has single-payer. We good?
But go for it. Let me check.
Okay. UK has single-payer system. So the British saying it's cratering. Wake up call for the US. They have what's called the National Health Service. It's single-payer, meaning the government controls everything, pay for everything.
Mm-hmm.
As of right now, 7.2 million Brits are awaiting medical care, which is approximately 11% of the population. 400,000 are waiting over a year for hospital treatment. Heart attacks take 90 minutes to anywhere to 2.5 hours for an ambulance to come when you have a heart attack. 55,000 people are forced to wait at least 12 hours after being admitted into the emergency room.
Wow.
The president of the Royal College of Emergency Medicine, he estimates that between 300 and 500 are dying each week because of these delays in Britain. Not just because of COVID that they're having, that they're having these issues. It's been decaying for decades, this system. Why do we care? Well, that's what they keep pushing for in our country. U.S. Congress is proposing the same type of system where it's single payer. Only difference, and making it almost worse, is you're not allowed any private insurance is the ideal situation. In the UK, they still allow you to go get your own private physician. That's part of the problem. So now,
You're basically just describing socialized medicine.
that's what they have in the UK. With
So
the
basically, my
exception
mom's
of
talking
the UK.
about socialized medicine versus
But
non-socialized
they want
medicine.
in our country that you don't have any other options.
Right.
It would be
Which
illegal.
would be fully socialized medicine.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be illegal for you to go see your general practitioner
Like
if
in
he's not part of the
Canada,
system.
Canada has that's basically socialistic medicine. The problem with Canada and what people don't talk about is if you have the money, you can bump the line.
Right.
And I know some people that have done that a couple times.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which is the exact opposite of what their point is of
Exactly,
doing it.
yeah.
And that's why it will never work. And that's what we're seeing in real time the UK. You won't hear about that here. But the system is falling apart. And only 2% of the general practitioners are seeing their patients within 2 weeks. So now they don't even have enough doctors to fill the void. They don't get paid enough. They have the lowest number of doctors and nurses in Western Europe.
That's the real problem, and that's the question of what the factor that people don't talk about in medicine, like in the idea of socialized medicine, is how many doctors. You will quickly find out how many doctors were doing it for the money and how many actually want to help people.
Yeah.
You would see the medical field just slash. I mean, we're talking more than 50% probably, if I were to guess, because they financially can't keep up. If you have the kind-hearted people that were actually there just to help people, that's fine. But if you've been living this multi-millionaire lifestyle, which some doctors, surgeons make, they can't just keep doing what they're doing and survive. Like, there's got to be some kind of balance, and socialized medicine hasn't figured out what that balance is.
Well, or you live in a socialist country where all your education is paid for by the government, so you can become a doctor and not have to take out huge student loans, which I have a cousin.
And then the quality of doctor goes down drastically.
Well, not only that, I have a cousin who did that, and they barely live above the poverty line because he doesn't make any money. He's a doctor, but he's in a socialist country. He gets paid nothing.
Yeah.
He has no loans or anything, but you still have to support a family and everything else, and it's not like here.
Can you take that practice and come to America?
No, you have to be licensed.
Yeah, you do.
In
That's
the
what I
area
thought.
that you work. So you could probably come and get licensed here in America. You know, you
But
just
you have to pay the loans, right?
Well, you wouldn't have to have a loan because as long as your education, you could pass our exams and whatnot.
Oh, okay. So you do just have to. That's what I meant.
Right.
Like
I don't
you
know
just
the
have
full
to
process,
do
but yeah, you might have to do some time in a hospital, whatever. But and as you know, they've changed all those into pass-fail. No more grades for that anymore,
that's
right?
a scary.
So
that's what I mean. Quality of doctor goes down drastically. I told you, I know some doctors that got straight D's. I would not trust them.
Yeah, it becomes pass-fail at one point. That was always the case, but now they're trying to make everything pass-fail, where you don't even have to make any. Well, not I'm saying you don't have to make an effort, but who knows if you're a straight A doctor versus just got by the skin of my teeth doctor, and you pass these exams.
I was actually one of my friends at the Y. He used to work at the Morristown Hospital. He was very high up in Morristown Hospital. He was telling me how he feels bad for nurses because nurses, the flip side of that is most schools in this country, you have to have a 90% or above just to get through school, right? So when they're hiring nurses up at Morristown, they get like 3,000 nurse applications a year. Yeah. And they're all the same. Like, they're essentially all the same because they all had good grades because that's the only way you got through the school.
Right.
And then we could do it. He said we could do in-person, like, actual like interviews and stuff. But he said, truth be told, I just find 12 of them, pull them out, and that's the nurses for the year. And then maybe we'll interview them.
I thought nurses were union. Don't they have to join a nursing union?
I guess not always, but this was a couple years ago, he said, like 10 years ago, I'd say.
A long time.
I think the problem is there's so many nurses now, all that are, you would think you would go by grades for nursing or how they did on tests and stuff, but they all have the same grades because they had to. That's the requirement for their colleges. Right. So he goes, it got to the point where it really doesn't matter what nurses you're grabbing unless they have a specification.
Yeah, I mean, you can interview them for their personalities or whatever, but it basically comes down to I don't want to say it's a grunt job, but it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Can you do this job? Are you trained to do what's needed of a nurse?
So it's kind of it's funny because we just talk about how good grades are, like 90%. Like, they're all hitting 90s and above, which is fantastic in the medical field.
Right.
But when everyone's hitting 90 and above, it's like, okay, well, now there's nothing special about a group.
Right, but what happens is they want to go to certain hospitals that pay more money. Mm-hmm. So you have to set yourself apart.
That's why everyone goes to Morristown, because I guess Morristown pays very well. Like, the fact that Bailey has a nursing job there is fantastic.
Yeah, but I thought she was. I thought they were union.
I'll ask Bailey.
I thought all nurses had to be union, and when you do that, it becomes like a union pool where you join the union and they take the first 12 people. The first lady doesn't work out, she gets written up, or man, they get removed, and then they take the next person in line to take it. But
I don't know how it works.
More selectivity to that.
Yeah.
Or maybe private hospitals, they don't have to do that versus public hospitals.
Yeah,
So
that's a good question. I don't know. Again, we didn't go into that much detail, but
it's
yeah,
a good point, though.
Really
but
easy. Yeah.
Well, I remember years ago, your uncle had given me a stack. I wasn't working. He gives me a stack because he had to hire somebody.
Uncle actually just told us the story
Did
when
he?
we were in Texas. Well, it
I don't
is
know
a
if
good
he
story.
did include me in it because I don't know if you remember giving it to me, but he came home and he was so busy and he goes, go through the stack and give me like 10 good candidates because he knew I felt like he did and I could interpret.
You were mentally
right. I knew.
Uncle was probably 1 hour sleep, 72
I had
hours.
other stuff to do, and you know what? It becomes like you said, like this doctor said, they're all the same. So I'm going through Columbia, Yale, Harvard, blah 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 blah. Everybody was exactly the same.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it back then is I didn't know color of skin. I didn't
Right,
know
there was
gender,
it was just the piece of paper and what it
just
said.
the piece of
and the
paper.
grades maybe.
Right. Odds are at that time it was probably mostly white males that I was looking at because it was 30 plus years ago, right? But you start looking after a while and you're looking for that one little difference because they all had great GPAs, they all came from good schools.
That's what it sounds like the nursing is. You're exactly explaining what my friend Bill said.
Right. So I wound up like chucking people that, well, I don't like that school, so that's going. Or
Yeah.
he spelt that wrong, or I feel there should be a comma there. And you use the most ridiculous cutoff. Or versus you take the first 12 and say, here's 10 of them if you really want to be lazy and do it that way. But I understand what he's saying. There's nothing that differentiates other than the interview. And then it becomes, do I like this person? I mean, literally, do I like them? It's a biased thing. It's totally subjective. But on paper, you're the same as every other guy that walked in here, a woman. Yeah. Can we work together?
Unless you have specifications, but those specifications involve experience. And most of the nurses that go in are right out of college. So there's no experience unless you did some internships.
Right.
So that's like my friend Emily. She everyone knows Em, but she's a nurse. She just graduated and she's gonna have to go through that same struggle, but she actually has more experience than most because she worked in nursing homes, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna get the job you want, right? But I think she did get a job.
Well, and I also think there's different levels of nursing. There's an LN, an RN.
Oh yeah, she was trying to explain it to me.
And that makes a difference because like that same person we were talking about before, the family before, the mother was a nurse. And she would tell me she has to keep doing some service time to keep her licensing. Yeah. So she would have to go to a nursing home and do, like odd jobs. I don't know if it was a temporary basis, if she was signed up somewhere. But, yeah, nursing is more than just, let me start nursing again because I've been out of it and my kids are grown. I want to go back to work. You have to maintain it's like a lifeguard. You got to maintain your certification. So,
you got anything else?
No, that was it.
Okay. I had one more, but we can skip that one. The only one that we have to mention before we go is, as I told my mom, Mealy is shutting down, which is the app that I've been using for the last 3 years. Shuts down February 27th. Tomorrow, which would be Monday, so by the time this comes out, because this is going to come out Wednesday because we recorded on Sunday, they're actually going to do like a final farewell thing tomorrow, so I'll post that in the Discord so you guys would already know about it before this comes out. But one of the questions that I've been getting from the community, because I am one of the bigger creators on that app, am I going to post all the way through or am I going to call it quits now? I'm going to post all the way through, all the way up until February 27th.
Be loyal to the end.
Yep, absolutely. I just joined their Discord today just for the last year, and then I'm going to watch the thing tomorrow. I'll give everyone a warning in Discord, but so if you're seeing this now, you probably missed it. But yeah, so I'm going to post all the way through. I think on February 25th, I'll do one last send-off video to Mealy. And then, we'll just keep posting on the other stuff. I'm going to move everyone over, hopefully. And, 3 years. I know the developers fairly well, so it'll be nice. It'll be nice. But, yeah, they just couldn't keep up anymore. I knew it was going to happen. The last year, I realized that there were some bugs in the app that they weren't even fixing. So I was like, yeah, this is on borrowed time. So I wasn't surprised when I saw it. I knew it was coming. But, it'll be a nice little send-off. But other than that, the only things I have to promote, so I just put out, oh God, this week's kind of weird because of the wedding. So I got to think here. So this comes out Wednesday. So Monday, One Piece Odyssey, that would be Monday's video. So go check that out, as well as Star Fox Adventures I put out today on Sunday, which was the speed run. And then Wednesday, I got to figure out what Wednesday's video is. Oh, wait, that's the podcast. So, as I said, it's going to be a weird week. I don't know what Friday is, but we got to start preparing for Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the Super Bowl.
I'm gonna get Hufflepuff.
Oh, God.
I don't want to be one of those Slytherins. But no, yeah, Super Bowl comes up, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So not this week, the week after that.
Yeah,
So,
today decides the two teams.
so that's Super
we
Bowl
know it's the
Sunday.
Eagles.
Ooh, so I'm gonna have a UFC and then a Super Bowl the next day. Mom, that's gonna be a sick weekend.
Quick Check is going to make a lot of money.
Quick Check's gonna be making a lot of money. So when am I gonna get that sponsorship?
Sponsor
Quick Check? I gotta reach out to them pretty soon. They owe me a lot of money. But yeah, other than that, social media down below, promo codes down below. If you are on Mealy, start moving over now. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So we will see you next time. I think Kenny's actually going to do the podcast on Wednesday. So
all right, we'll see.
Yeah,
Kenny's
Kenny's skipped out on me like 8 times. Yeah,
but,
well, I mean, he did just get back from Dubai, and he's got stories to tell. So
And he
Anyway.
to sleep.
yeah, I'm surprised. Kenny, just so you guys know, Kenny went from a 20-hour plane ride, like from Dubai to America, right to a wedding.
Showered, put a tux on, and went to a
still
wedding.
got through it. Yeah,
And
still
managed to dance
partied
on the
through it.
speaker.
Yeah. So anyway, all right, we will see you guys. I'll see you guys at stream, and Mom will see you next week.
Yep.
So nice job.
Why?